trains. I've always had a fascination with trains and railways, and growing up in Macon was kind of good for that because Macon is crisscrossed with railroads. You can't go anywhere without running into a railroad track because in many ways the history of railroads in the South and the history of Macon are almost the same story. But I grew up in a neighborhood that was very close to the train railroad tracks that are right behind you there if you go through those woods. And me and my little gang of friends, we liked to hang out at the railroad tracks, doing the things you do down by the railroad, running up and down the rail, seeing who can run the fastest and the farthest on a single rail without falling off, and picking blackberries by the side of the railroad. For some reason, the best blackberries grew over where the railroad is. Finding loose railroad spikes and, threatening to nail your little brother to a tree with the loose railroad spike. And, the thing where you always heard if you put your ear to the rail, you could hear the vibrations and tell if a train was coming. Doing that, and on one memorable occasion, having to climb off the side of a railway trestle and hang off the side because we got caught out in the middle when the train rounded the bend because that whole putting your ear to the railroad rail doesn't work worth shit. So the story I'm going to tell you tonight, actually, it happened to me, but I don't have any memory of it because I was only 20 months old at the time. But my mother's told me about it over and over and over again. She was hanging clothes out on the line to dry because, unlike all you spoiled millennials, we didn't have a washer and a dryer. We just had a washer to dry it. You had to carry it out and hang it out on the line, old-fashioned pioneer style. And I was out playing, and she went back inside. She said for just a second, just to grab another handful of clothes to bring out to put on the line. And when she got back out there, my ninja ass was gone. Because unlike all you spoiled millennials, we didn't have a fenced-in backyard. All we had was a backyard that just ran up to some thick woods. And I was just gone. So she said she thought, well, surely he just slipped by me and came into the house while I was grabbing the clothes. So she looks in the house. I'm not there. She goes outside. She's calling my name. No answer. She's starting to panic. She goes into the woods and looks and calls and looks in the woods. And nothing. So she's really panicked now. So she goes and calls my father at work, and he's got to come home immediately and find me because I am gone. So while she's waiting on him, she's looking in the woods again. Now, the railroad tracks were about a quarter mile through some relatively thick woods. And she never went that far back because she thought there's just no way in that short amount of time my little ass could have gotten back to the railroad tracks. So she hears my father driving up, and she goes out in just an absolute panic and grabs him, and they're going to go and they check the neighbor's house. There was a neighbor lady next door who would always, those little after dinner mints that kind of melt your mouth. She would always give me those if I went to her house, and to the point that my mother would come over and say, just quit letting him come over here. Don't, I know he's bothering you. And I'm like, lady, don't mess with my relationships. But I wasn't there. She hadn't seen me. They go back towards the woods, and I come toddling out of the woods, covered in creosote. Creosote being the black tarry stuff that they treat railroad ties with so they don't rot. So clearly, I had been back bucking around on the railroad tracks. My little 20-month-old ass had gotten through thick woods, vines and overgrowth and rocks and who knows what, to the railroad tracks, played around, and found my way back. Obviously, no one knows for sure because, again, I was 20 months old. I couldn't really talk. I couldn't tell them what happened. But clearly, from a very young age, I've loved the railroads to the point where I've occasionally been chased away by the folks that run the railroad for being places I shouldn't be. Before I conclude, I'll tell you, I did have one friend who he had a very specific activity he liked to do with railroads. you know, you'll see how the trains are bringing all the new cars into the, you know, to the various dealerships around. You know, they're bringing new cars. Now, of course, they have, you know, the sides are, they put paneling on the sides of the train cars to protect the cars, and I think it's largely because of my friend David, because his activity was to stand by the side of the road and take rocks and take out as many windows of cars going on the railroad as he could. Yeah, fun, felonious youth. That's all I have tonight. Thank y'all.